We got yet another crazy story coming out of the Bronx and a daycare. And I'm going to tell you guys, man, please, when you have to take your kids to daycare, you have to vet these people very, very carefully, whether it's a facility or if it's some friends that you know. We have to be very, very careful about where we send our kids, all right? But before we get into this story about this beautiful baby that you guys see in the middle of my screen right there, let me give you guys a disclaimer before we start here real quick. Give me just a second. Some viewers may find the following content offensive and controversial. The information in this video comes from multiple sources, including court records, official police charges, news web articles, and interviews. This video commentary also contains my personal opinions about the facts of this story. The point is to use this story as a cautionary tale in hopes of preventing tragedies like these to children going forward. Viewer discretion is advised. That is your official disclaimer. And I'm getting this particular story from usatoday.com, so thank you so much for the article. Haven't read a lot of stories from them, but I thought this one was by far the most comprehensive, so we're going to talk about that. Let me see if I can get this baby's face up on the screen. I want to get a solo shot of him, and I want y'all to look at this baby. Just such a handsome young man. Got his little bow tie on and just looks like a dapper young baby. And you would just think that if you did the best that you could to try to make sure that this kid has a great haircut, he looks nice and clean, got him a really, really awesome outfit, then you would just think that you would probably treat him and where he goes to daycare just as well as you do with his look. And he was a very, very strapping young man. But what they did was the parents, from what I understand, took their child to a friend's home daycare. And you guys are going to see some of the pictures of that nasty, disgusting house. But let's talk about this. The operator of a Bronx daycare center and her tenant are facing federal charges of up to life in prison for operating a drug distribution operation out of the facility where a 1-year-old died of a fentanyl overdose last week, prosecutors said on Tuesday. Again, fentanyl has taken another one of our babies. GREI Gray Mendez and Carlisto Acevedo Brito, who rented a room inside the center, hastily moved to cover up evidence of the operation before seeking help for the 3-year-old children who had been exposed to the drug, prosecutors said at a news conference. Before calling 911, and let me give a shout out real quick. I just thought about this to my guy, Chris Thorne. Shout out to Chris Thorne. I was watching his video earlier today, so shout out to him. Before calling 911, Mendez contacted a co-conspirator who arrived at the daycare center, U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Damian Williams, said. Minutes later, he left the daycare and fled out the back alley carrying 2 shopping bags, and all of that happened while suffering the effects of fentanyl poisoning and in desperate need of help. Police found a 1-kilogram brick of fentanyl sitting on top of the children's play mats in the daycare closet. They also recovered machine equipment used to press and package drugs for distribution. A federal complaint alleges that Mendez deleted 21,526 messages from an encrypted messaging app. In messages recovered by police from the day of the tragedy, Mendez tipped her husband off that the police were down there and told him to get a lawyer, the complaint says. They're doing this all around kids, all around babies. Weeks before, Brito also received a text instructing him to tell a co-conspirator referred to as the old guy that police would be outside when he took out the garbage, the complaint alleges. The same person texted Brito on September 12th that they had left him una torta, UNATORTA, on a table in a white bag. Mendez and Brito face a maximum federal sentence of life in prison and a minimum sentence of 20 years. Both suspects are being held with no bail. So a lot of people are wondering what happened. I don't know if you guys remember this movie called Next Friday. How many of you guys remember that movie, Mike Epps and Ice Cube? And there was a scene at the beginning of the movie where Ice Cube had met up with his cousin. They were in his room and they were talking, and he was telling him about his ex-girlfriend's sister, Baby D. Y'all remember Baby D? Big old woman, and shout out to, well, she was big in the movie. They made her to seem just huge. But shout out to the Lady of Rage who played that part in that movie. But he said that, what did he say? Let me just play it so y'all can hear what he said. Because they were talking about Baby D, how big she was and what she does in her house. I want y'all to hear this.
She got a little sister named Baby D. I'm telling you, this fat bitch get physical. She sell dope, do hair, and babysit out the same house. The police don't know when to kick the door in. Sell dope, do hair, and babysit out the same house. She sell dope, do hair, and babysit out the same house. She sell dope, do hair, and babysit out the same house.
She sell dope, do hair, and babysit out the same house. I just thought that was interesting how it kind of seems like it kind of relates in this story a little bit, where they're running a daycare and selling dope out the house and probably doing hair as well. But that house is filthy. Let me show y'all some pictures here real quick, because I might not be able to show you video, let the videos play, but I can show you some pictures. Let me do that if y'all don't mind. Like this. I'm going to blow these pictures up. I'm going to cover myself up a little bit. But I want you guys to just take a look. And guess I love the Friday movies too. Awesome, awesome. Look at this. They had this stuff hidden in the floor. Only if people could use their bad deeds for good. These people are very ingenious in the way that they do things. Only if they did it for good stuff. Look at this. This is where a daycare was allegedly happening. Let me show you guys another picture. I want you to take a look at this. Does this look like a daycare, like anywhere you would have your kids? Dirty, filthy, nasty, probably got bugs all over the goddamn place. Y'all see this? I had to make it big on the screen so y'all could see. Got these cheeseburgers, man. Got these cheeseburgers. Look at how disgusting this place is. I don't care if it's the Bronx or not. There is no excuse to be just dirty and filthy and nasty. And I'm actually going to say something about the biological father too. Let me show y'all one more picture. Look at this. Gross. Everything is just open. I'm pretty sure bugs have access to anything and everything that they ever wanted. Would y'all let y'all kids eat any of that? Be around a place like that? What do y'all think it smelled like in there? I do kind of feel a little bit bad for the father, because he did do an interview. And it's like your heart wants to feel bad for him because you see the beautiful little baby, and he is a beautiful little boy. But I want y'all to think about this. When you took your kid to daycare and picked him up from daycare, did you never walk inside that house to see what it actually looked like on the inside? And I'm going to tell y'all this. If there's any place where I drop my kid off and I can't walk all up and through your home, if you're having a home daycare, if I can't walk to your bathroom, can't walk through the play area and see where my kid is going to be at, then I don't think you should be able to take your kid there. And on top of that, if he did his due diligence and walked that apartment or walked that house, whatever it is, and saw it look like that, and you left your kid there anyway, then I think that dad should actually be looked at some type of way too. But I'm going to hold that judgment on the dad. I just want to say that. Police were called to the Divino Niño Daycare Center on Friday when several children seemed unusually lethargic after taking naps. A 2-year-old and an 8-month-old recovered after they were administered Narcan, so they were already high. But 1-year-old Nicholas Dominici died at the Montefiore Medical Center. Another child who was exposed had been taken to the hospital earlier. 1 grain, 2 grains of fentanyl could take down a grown man. So even just the residue itself for a small child can cause death, according to NYPD Commissioner Edward Cabin. Police are now seeking Mendez's husband after he reportedly fled the scene after authorities were called. Mendez placed several calls to her husband before calling 911 when she discovered the children unresponsive. Asked about the report, her attorney Andres Manuel Aranda told USA Today that Mendez placed calls in the aftermath of the tragedy to both police and her husband, as well as her supervisors and neighbors. I don't know what the sequence of events transpired, but she did call him and she was asking for his help and he disappeared, he said. Aranda said Mendez had no knowledge of the presence of drugs in the daycare center, which I think that's all total BS. Hopefully the truth will come out because my client has, let me not even read that part. I don't even want to hear that. The NYPD and the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency are investigating whether Brito, who entered the U.S. from the Dominican Republic around the same time the daycare center opened, could be involved in a broader drug operation that used the daycare center as a front for their operation, which I believe it probably was. The daycare passed 3 routine checks by the health department, including 1 unannounced search on September the 6th. Police also confirmed they had received no complaints from the community related to drug transactions at the center, which is weird. So September 6th, and today is the 21st. Did they just wake up one day and they were just completely nasty like this? Or did they really even do this check? I don't know what they were even checking for. One of the things my child care inspectors are not trained to do is look for fentanyl, but maybe we need to start, said New York Department of Health and Mental Hygiene Commissioner Ashwin Vasan. Julie Gaither, an assistant professor of pediatrics at Yale School of Medicine, told USA Today, given fentanyl's strength, just a small amount could cause a child's death. We don't even need to talk about that. We've discussed that many, many times. Let me give you guys the fair usage, and I'm going to see if I can get these news videos to play. So here we go. Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use. It is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107. If you guys would, do me a favor and please share this story and hit that thumbs up. It'll share these videos and let more people know where to find them, okay? So give me a second. Let me see if I can get these to play. So we're going to have to do this the hard way. Give me just a second.
Stop pushing this poison. It kills. It ruins lives. And it will ruin yours too when we catch you, convict you, and send you to federal prison.
A dire warning about the drug behind the Bronx daycare tragedy as we learn more.
Ruins lives.
About what
and it will ruin yours too when we catch you, convict you, and send you to federal prison.
A dire warning about the drug behind the Bronx daycare.
Let's try this again. Hold on. A little technical difficulty.
Stop pushing this poison. It kills. It ruins lives. And it will ruin yours too when we catch you, convict you, and send you to federal prison.
A dire warning about the drug behind the Bronx daycare tragedy as we learn more about what investigators say they uncovered inside.
And tonight, the owner of that daycare breaks down in tears as she comes face to face with a federal judge. Good evening, I'm Maurice Dubois.
And I'm Christine Johnson. The heartbreaking story capturing national attention and also raising a lot of questions about the safety of daycares inside people's homes.
Here is where the investigation stands right now tonight. The daycare owner and her husband's cousin were both denied bail tonight in federal court. The owner's husband is still on the run, and at last check, those 3 children who survived are still in the hospital, one of them in critical condition.
CBS 2's Alicia Reed was in the courtroom for hours today, and she joins us now live with an update. Alicia?
Christina Maurice Gray Mendez was visibly emotional when she walked into court today. She had shackles on her feet. Both her mother and her oldest daughter were there to support her. Gray Mendez broke down in tears, wailing the moment a federal judge decided she would not be granted bail. Mendez and her co-defendant Carlisto Acevedo Brito are accused of running a fentanyl distribution ring inside a daycare. Law enforcement officials releasing photos of the fentanyl they say was found in a hallway closet at the daycare and kilo press machines often used to package and distribute drugs.
It kills. In particular, they found a brick of fentanyl, about 1 kilogram in weight, right on top of children's play mats in the daycare's closet.
Both Mendez and Brito used translators in court Tuesday. They are facing dozens of charges, including murder with a depraved indifference, and now 2 federal counts of conspiracy to distribute resulting in death and possession with intent to distribute resulting in death after 1-year-old Nicholas Dominici was killed. Mendez is accused of calling 3 people, including her husband, before calling 911. Her husband, described as a co-conspirator, showed up to the daycare and hasn't been seen since.
Minutes later, he left the daycare and fled out the back alley, carrying 2 full shopping bags. And all of that happened while the children, the babies, were suffering from the effects of fentanyl poisoning and in desperate need of help. We're not going to give up. We're going to get him.
Mendez allegedly deleted over 21,000 text messages to her husband while at the police precinct. She and Brito are facing a minimum of 20 years and a maximum of life in prison. Prosecutors say fentanyl is the deadliest drug the country has ever seen, telling the judge it kills 150 people in the U.S. each day.
Fentanyl is the most urgent threat in our nation. And the tragedy that unfolded in the Bronx demonstrates the danger that fentanyl poses to every New Yorker.
Mendez's defense asked for $100,000 bail, saying she's not a flight risk, but the judge denied it. When questioned by detectives, both Brito and Mendez denied knowing anything about drugs at the daycare. Live from Manhattan Federal Court, Alicia Reed, CBS 2 News.
Alicia, thank you. And stay with CBS 2 for continuing coverage of the daycare story. To read the complaint and watch the U.S. Attorney's news conference, head over to cbsnewyork.com.
Shocking new details in the investigation to a Bronx daycare where a 1-year-old was killed from suspected fentanyl poisoning.
Fox 5's Antoine Lewis joins us live from the scene. And Antoine, police say they found a trap door today.
Absolutely. We'll show you video and pictures of that as well. Steve, that also goes to what police are saying. A major drug operation was definitely taking place here. Crime scene investigators spent hours Thursday inside the Divino Nino daycare in the Bronx, now being investigated as the site of a drug distribution ring. A trap door was discovered Wednesday night by investigators inside the apartment that housed Divino Nino. Neighbors are still in shock.
That's terrible. So I think so the city need to check every daycare in the area.
Daycare owner Gray Mendez and her tenant Carlisto Acevedo Brito were set to appear in Bronx criminal court Thursday. Their appearances were waived by their attorneys. Both are facing charges including possession with intent to distribute narcotics resulting in death. Last Friday, officials say fentanyl poisoned 4 small children inside the daycare. Authorities say one of those children, 1-year-old Nicholas Dominici, died from fentanyl exposure.
What was your reaction when you found out? Were you mad? Did you cry?
Yeah, it was upsetting because they're supposed to take care of the baby. The children.
Investigators say so far a kilo of fentanyl and drug-making equipment have been recovered along with other evidence. Mendez is also accused of trying to cover up her role. Prosecutors say she made 3 calls before dialing 911. 2 were to her husband, the 3rd suspect. Officials say she deleted nearly 20,000 text messages to her husband, who police believe is now on the run.
It's really hard to process because, you bring your children to a daycare and you expect them to be taken care of.
But for Victor Fabiano, this tragedy hits particularly particularly close to home. He and his wife run a daycare out of their own apartment just up the street from Divino Nino.
We've been doing things the way we normally do it. I mean, because this is an exception, but it's going to be hard for everybody. I'm pretty sure that it's going to be changing for all the other daycares. They're probably going to be inspecting a lot more, looking for a lot more, and who knows what else they will come up with. But I understand.
Again, Steve and Natasha, police are still trying to find the husband of Gray Mendez. They say he's wanted for questioning in this matter at this point. Nonetheless, both she and Carlisto Acevedo Brito will be back in court on October the 5th. Back inside to you.
All right, Antoine, thank you.
The New York City daycare owner is now facing federal drug charges after police say a 1-year-old died from exposure to fentanyl. The owner and her tenant are also charged with murder after investigators say they found a kilo of the deadly drug stored on top of playmats at the daycare. 3 other children were exposed but are now recovering. The case comes as the DEA calls fentanyl the most urgent threat in our nation. Senior investigative reporter Aaron Katersky is in the Bronx with the latest.
The owner of Divino Nino Daycare is locked up on federal drug charges, accusing her of storing fentanyl on playmats children use to take naps.
One of the most reckless things that a human can do, to endanger the life of a child like that.
Inside the daycare, investigators say they found large quantities of fentanyl, along with machines and supplies to package it for sale.
Was this daycare meant to hide a drug operation?
So, Aaron, these drug traffickers, they don't care. They could care less about the people that they're putting in harm's way. And in this case, these babies were poisoned by the reckless, irresponsible behavior of drug traffickers.
4 children became ill after they were exposed, but the owner, Gray Mendez, allegedly called her husband twice before dialing 911. And while waiting for paramedics, prosecutors say her husband was seen carrying heavy shopping bags out a back alley.
All of that happened while the children, the babies, were suffering from the effects of fentanyl poisoning and in desperate need of help.
1-year-old Nicholas Dominici died at the hospital. 3 others were revived with the overdose reversal drug Narcan. The DEA says the case demonstrates the danger fentanyl poses to the country. It's often now mixed into other drugs, but since it's odorless and tasteless, users may never know. Fentanyl-related deaths have increased every year in the last decade. As little as 2 milligrams can be lethal, and the DEA says it seized enough just last year to kill every American.
And senior investigative reporter Aaron Katersky joins me now from the Bronx. Aaron, this daycare just passed an inspection, but inspectors say they don't check for fentanyl. So is that going to change now?
I mean, who would ever think that daycare inspectors, Diane, would have to check for the presence of fentanyl in a child care center? It's almost unthinkable. So the city health department says, no, inspectors are not trained to sniff out fentanyl. But the health commissioner said the other day, maybe now they have to be, which really is a sign of the country's struggle with fentanyl. It is killing tens of thousands of Americans every single year. And if it's in a daycare, Diane, the DEA says it shows it can really be anywhere.
It does seem that way. Aaron, this has to be devastating for the parents who trusted this daycare with their own children. How are people there in the community reacting?
You can see some of the mementos left behind in memory of little Nicholas Dominici, who was just 1 year old, little shy of his 2-year birthday. We spoke to his father, who was just devastated and in tears, who said he loves his son and he wants him back. But he becomes what the DEA says is just one of tens of thousands of fentanyl victims. And thankfully, the 3 others who were poisoned are going to be okay, though 2 remain in the hospital this morning.
Now, the owner of the daycare has pleaded not guilty. Police are now searching for her husband. He was allegedly seen carrying these shopping bags out of a back alley while she was waiting for the paramedics. So what's
suffering from inside? Police are confident.
I'm going to try to find the video of the father. Let me see if I can.
Well, here at home in Nation and
were seeking help. She did not serve 181 children earlier this month. Aid calling
from
1,000 people. Kilogram of fentanyl.
Okay, I don't see the interview from the father, even though I did see it earlier. But it's of no consequence right now. Just know this. I've not only lost a few friends, even one as recently as less than 2 weeks ago in a whole nother state, but fentanyl is devastating. It is devastating, man. I lost a friend of mine less than 2 weeks ago. Known her for a long time. A couple of years ago, lost a friend. Lost a buddy of mine last year. Just, I don't know, man. People like this got to go. Anybody who perpetuates this type of drug behavior, or whatever the case is, man, they just got to go. And I think nothing less than a life sentence should be suitable. But let me know what you guys think in this story. To that little baby boy, he's a beautiful baby boy, man. He could have grown up to become anything. And I guarantee you, he wouldn't have become a drug dealer. I can tell you that. Handsome young man. Let me see if I can find a good, really good picture of him. I know I had one. And I think that's him and his mom right there. It's just really sad. I think the mom trusted her friend. They trusted this daycare. This picture. Young Prince, R.I.P. Beautiful baby boy, man. Undeniable. But let me know what you guys think about this story. Let me know what you think in the comment section. If you see something, say something, suspect something. Walk these daycares. They should have seen how filthy that place was. Like, it didn't just pop up like that overnight. Okay? But let me know what you guys think. Thank you.